Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the weight of someone else's mood or emotions, even when they weren't saying anything? Or maybe you found yourself feeling emotionally drained after spending time with a certain person and not knowing why. Perhaps you felt mentally foggy or anxious, as if something isn't quite right, but you can't put your finger on it. If any of this sounds familiar, this episode is speaking directly to you. In fact, you might already be absorbing or interacting with energies that you aren't fully aware of. We're constantly exchanging energy with the world around us through conversations, physical touch, and even just being in close proximity to others. And just like physical protection, psychic protection is a way to shield yourself from the draining or harmful energies that can leave you feeling overwhelmed, scattered, or emotionally exhausted. If this is you, join in and we will go into a deep dive into psychic protection and what you can do for yourself.
You're listening to the Intuitive Mastery Podcast. Hi, I'm Kate Connolly, and with over 15 years of intuitive healing and teaching experience, I'm here to help you celebrate intuition and value authenticity to create a world where you have the freedom to live your best life. This podcast is here to teach you how to apply the principles of spirituality, healing, and mindset to have true and lasting joy, all from the inside out. This is the Intuitive Mastery Podcast.
This episode is talking to you about the concept of psychic energy and why it's just as important to protect as your physical, mental, and emotional health. Now, I've been doing this work for years, so it kind of comes second nature, but it's amazing how many people I meet that are still really struggling with basic energy interactions. People who can't go to the shopping mall, people who find it really difficult to be in a crowd or to deal with angry people, or when you see a person crying in the corner and you just get so uncomfortable, you don't know what to do, you have to move away from them. Those kind of things form part of your psychic energy signature, as it were. And the way that you show up in the world is going to interact with everyone and everything around you. So if you are unaware of this psychic energy that's happening within your body and outside of you, it can be a lot harder to navigate because you go through life with all of these random emotions and body symptoms and anxieties that you don't understand and you can't figure out where they're coming from. So therefore you think it's yours, you think there's something wrong with you, and you can actually start to spiral physically, emotionally, energetically, and it can send you into a really bad place. If you do this for long enough, you can end up with long-term illnesses, long-term mental health stuff, and things that really ultimately were not even yours to begin with. So when I first started diving into this, I remember years and years ago seeing a healer, and her big comment to me was, "Love, 90% of this stuff that I'm clearing is not even yours. You are a high-level empath. You are carrying and picking up other people's energy, and it is draining you. It is actually making you unwell." And in hindsight, she was absolutely correct. I'd just been completely and totally unconscious of it. And I had no idea that I was doing that to myself. I mean, if I knew, I wouldn't have done it in the first place. So if you're not aware, but you're having all of these really weird symptomatic issues in your life, you have random emotions that come up and you don't even realize, you start feeling anxious for no particular reason and you don't know why. Your body's feeling exhausted, like you can't get out of bed and you don't know why. It could be that psychic energy is actually impacting you in ways that you wouldn't have understood before now. Okay. So we're going to kind of take you through, look, it can be, we can take you through the fact that it can be a beautiful gift, because it is. But if you don't understand it, it can actually pull you into darker, negative places that you wouldn't necessarily want to go or choose to go. Okay. So psychic energy is used to describe the unseen, subtle energy that we interact with and engage with on a daily basis. All right. It's not physical energy in the traditional sense, like electricity, but it's this non-physical force that connects us to each other and connects the environment to us as well. Okay. So it's vibrational energy, life force energy. And these days it's probably sitting more in the realms of spiritual or metaphysics. And that's okay because it's still real. And the more we understand it and the more we know about it, then the better equipped we are to handle our lives as humans, to handle our lives with other people. You know, there's reasons why some people end up being hermits at home because they literally cannot handle the energy of other people, loud, busy areas. Their auric field is just not working very well, and they are feeling exhausted and drained by life. So, speaking of the aura, it's probably the most aware concept that we have in terms of our energy and how we interact with the world. So you can actually take it, I think it's through cerulean photography. You can actually get photos of the aura. Now, the aura does change pretty rapidly. Some people like to get snapshots of it to see, you know, what it looks like, what colors they are. You know, people put different energies and meanings to the colors and how the aura looks. But ultimately, the way that I like to look at it is from a sense of how intact or permeable is that auric field, because that's going to impact how we are being impacted by other people. Okay. So the aura is essentially 7 or 8 rings of energy on the outside of our bodies, and they go up to maybe 1 to 2 meters away from our body, just depending. We can absolutely move this in and out consciously. We can decide and ask for our aura to be brought in and out, but essentially it has different levels, and each level has its own energy, it has its own function, and each level impacts how we in our human bodies respond and react to our environment around us. Now, our aura is typically supposed to be fully intact and functioning almost like as a filter between us and the world around us. Okay. But very, very, very frequently, we will have an aura that's not nice and balanced. Okay. It's going to have holes in it. It might be torn. It might be dropped in energy. It might be not as bright or as strong or as balanced as it could be. And when our aura isn't functioning very well, then we are much more likely to pick up on and also transfer psychic energy that we shouldn't be having to deal with. And this is where we can often find ourselves being really deeply impacted by other people without really wanting to. Okay. So when we're talking about psychic energy with our aura, but also just within our behavior, what we say, what we speak, what our intentions are, there's different kind of aspects to psychic energy. The first one is any energy exchange. Okay. So just this awareness that we're constantly exchanging and interacting with the psychic energy of other people, whether we realize it or not. Okay. So you're going to unconsciously pick up on people's emotions, thoughts, and even their intentions. And similarly, people around you are absorbing your energy. So sometimes without you even knowing. So it can either uplift you or drain you, depending on whether the energy is spiraling up in a positive way or spiraling down in a negative way. And so when you are around other people, it is actually an important thing to kind of tune into yourself and go, wow, how am I actually feeling here? Like, am I feeling uncomfortable because I just don't know these people? Or am I feeling uncomfortable because everyone in the room is looking at me like I have 2 heads? Right. And if that's the case, is that coming from a particular person, or is this just somewhere I need to leave? Right? Am I unsafe here? Do I need to get out? And having that discernment and awareness can be the difference between us being able to navigate a situation or us running away. Now, let's say we have to go into a room full of people and it feels really kind of negative. It feels like people have negative intentions towards you, but you get a bit curious and you want to get a bit more discerning about it. When you learn skills, you can actually start to figure out whether these people, whether it's all of them, whether it's one person, whether it's the room, whether it's you, you can actually start to discern where that energy is feeling off and then what you're going to do about it. If you want to dive more into all of that and get to be really good at understanding energy and understanding how you can navigate such and certain situations, I strongly encourage you to join the Intuitive Mastery School. We have loads and loads and loads of information and multiple different spiritual courses on how to navigate energy, how to protect yourself. We're currently doing energetic protection in class at the moment, which is why I'm doing this podcast. But also it's a really important platform for you to actually understand yourself better. We have a full series on the auric field, so you can actually understand the different layers of it, how you can heal it, why it might go bad, and different aspects of or different reasons why it's so important for you to keep it healthy and strong. So if you want to learn more about that, the link is below. We meet up every week as in a community. We have a class, we have live channeled meditations, and we work through loads of different spiritual topics so that you can actually become really, really proficient at understanding energy, tuning into your intuition, making clear decisions, creating soul aligned choices for your life, healing relationships. There are so many skills that learning your intuition and mastering your spirituality can help you within your life. And it really has a massive, profound impact everywhere. So if you want to join us, please jump in and do all of that. We're not going to dive too much into the negative and the positive spirals of energy, and we're not going to kind of dive too much into the aura, but just having the awareness that it's there, having the awareness that can be impacted is really important. Okay, so if you are much more tuned into this, if you are much more aware of energy, you're probably an empath or a highly sensitive person, which is what people like to call us sometimes. And it's often referred to more specifically as some kind of psychic sensitivity. Okay, so it's the ability to perceive subtle energies around us, sometimes even beyond our conscious awareness. So it gives us this sixth sense about people, about situations, about decisions, about jobs, about relationships. That sixth sense will kick in at all times and it'll help guide you and it'll help lead you in certain directions. So if we go back to that example of walking into the room that you perceive as being really negative with having negative intentions, one of the skills that I teach my students in the Intuitive Mastery School, but also that I've had to learn over time, is okay, I'm just going to tune into what's actually going on here. Is it a particular person? Yes, it's a particular person. Is that stuff that person is feeling, has that got anything to do with me? No, it's got nothing to do with me. Oh, really interesting. Okay, is there anything that I can help with in this situation? No, they don't want to talk to anybody. That's okay. What can I do to look after my energy so that I am feeling sovereign and not impacted by this person's energy right now? And there's lots of different techniques that you can learn, which is what we're doing in class at the moment. But it might be things like protective bubbles, permission bubbles, pulling your energy in, invisibility cloaks. There's all sorts of different ways that you can play with your energy. And almost always, 99.9% of the time, in my experience, unless you're really deeply impacted yourself, you put those in place and everything changes. Behavior changes, people change, the energy of the room changes, everyone flicks out of it. It's a completely very very tangible difference that you see. And that very tangible difference that you see is the difference between feeling extremely uncomfortable and fearful in a situation and feeling completely unaffected by it and able to be your best self regardless of what other people are doing. Okay, so this is how important energy protection is. So in the first instance, you might feel really scared and go, oh my goodness, I feel completely out of out of place here. Someone's got it in for me. I'm really scared. You leave the room, you go into a negative thought spiral of your own because you think, oh my goodness, what have I done? You know, is there something in my teeth? Have I hurt these people? Have I upset these people? Like, what's going on? So you can find yourself in that situation, or you can learn how to tune in and understand exactly what's going on, exactly where it's coming from. Ensure for yourself that actually, no, this isn't about me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look after my own sovereignty. All right. So I'm going to put codes and information into my own aura so that I feel safe and protected in this moment. And the second you do it, you're like, ooh, wow, I feel amazing. That was great. I hope they're okay. And maybe they'll come to me later if they want to talk to me or whatever. But otherwise, I am no longer impacted by that intense negative intention energy. And so I can go in and I can be myself. And if the group in there was, an office thing, a school thing, an out of, like an activity situation where you're supposed to go in and participate, you can actually go in and be your best self rather than either running away and spiraling or going in there with enormous amounts of fear and not being able to show up the way that you would like to. Okay, so this is how it works. All right, so let me check my notes. All right, so this example kind of lets us know that we are always constantly exposed to the psychic energy of others. And it's really, really easy to absorb or take things on if we're not consciously looking after our own energy. All right. Now, when I'm working, super easy, no problems. I'm always grounded. Being grounded is one of the most powerful things that you can do to not take on other people's energy. And if you're grounded and if your aura is intact and coded with the right energy, you will not pick up on other people's stuff. But to stay conscious of this 24/7 is actually really hard. And personally, in my experience, like almost not really functional because I still have to go between lots of different experiences and places. I will see up to 20 or 30 people a day in my practice. I will see my kids at home. I will go to the shops. I can be mindful and I can be aware and I can keep grounding myself multiple times a day and just checking in with my aura. And I do that sometimes. But it's also really common and really understandable that we don't always have that 100% awareness of what's happening. And we are going to be somewhat impacted by other people. Okay. So any kind of low vibe energies like fear, anger, anxiety, which are all just other people's vibrational energies in their fields, they can be particularly draining. All right. And they can affect your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. So if you're walking past a whole group of people and you just feel this like, oh my God, this just feels really exhausting just walking past these people, that collective energy is potentially in a place of fear or anxiety or anger. And there's nothing wrong with those emotions if you know what to do about them, if you know how to recognize them and process them and do something about it. There's nothing wrong with those. But if you don't know how, and you've literally just by walking past a group of people picked up on that energy, and then all of a sudden you're in a fear of anxiety and fear and anger, which isn't even yours. Like, how do you manage that? How do you process that? What are you going to do about that? Right? So, learning and understanding and having these tools is, in my opinion, essential for just functioning in a normal state, functioning outside of fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, all of those emotions that tend to put us in those negative spirals. We want to be able to balance ourselves enough internally so that we are in a vibrational state that is not being impacted by other people, but also keeping ourselves grounded and keeping our aura balanced enough. Now, it sounds really complicated, but it's not really. Ultimately, we are responsible for how we show up. We are responsible for our beliefs, our emotions, and our behavior. We are responsible for that. So if we are throwing negative stuff out there into the world. That is something that we need to be mindful of. We need to take responsibility for, and we need to remedy as best we can. All right. If everybody in the world did that, we would not have this problem, right? Because we'd all be self-sufficient. We'd all be functioning pretty well, sovereignly, right? We'd all be sitting in our sovereignty. We'd be functioning pretty well, and we wouldn't be picking up on all of this negative collective consciousness. Okay. But the fact is, that's not what most people are doing. Most people are not aware of themselves at all. They're not being mindful about how they're showing up in the world. They're not paying attention to their beliefs and emotions and how it impacts their life. They're not doing any of that. So if they're not doing any of that, how can they possibly know or realize how much they're impacting other people with their intentions and their thoughts? Okay, just food for thought there. It's so important that as humans, we decide every day how we're going to show up. We get to decide whether we are going to be negative or throw criticism or stonewall or be argumentative or whatever. We decide whether we're going to show up and do that. And as much as we might say it's not our fault, yes, it is. Our behavior is always our responsibility. It might be coming from unconscious programming. It might be coming from past trauma. That's completely understandable and okay. And we also have a responsibility to address it, to heal it, to move forward so that we can actually be really good humans for other people. All right. So like I said, if everyone did that, that would be an amazing world. It's not like that. We're not always grounded. We don't always have this beautiful solid auric field. We're not always putting good stuff out there. So because of that, we are going to be potentially quite vulnerable to other people's energies, emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Okay. So learning how to protect ourselves is going to be one of those fundamental things. Okay. So outside of energy protection or psychic protection, which will show up in the form of, like I said, bubbles or grounding or invisibility cloaks or pulling our energy back in so we're not impacted by other people, we can do all of that. We can manipulate the size of our auric field so we can pull our aura in when we're in crowds, and we can open it and expand it when we're on our own. We can kind of play with that and see how expanded or how contracted we feel. But we can also be really mindful that this can come out in people's thoughts, in their intentions towards you. If they have a belief that they hate all people with curly hair and blue eyes, well, you're not going to get anywhere, right? You're never going to get anywhere with that person unless they can recognize what they're putting out there. Now, it's not our job to fix other people. It's not our job to criticize or correct or tell other people how to be. That's actually no one's job unless they ask you, hey, I realize I'm, having a bad effect on you. Can you tell me what it is that's going on? And you can tell them. But outside of the invitation, it is not our business and not our job to pull other people up on their stuff. That's actually not okay. What we are responsible for and what we can do is protect ourselves, right? And we can code our aura with permission energy about what we will and won't allow in. We can clear our energy field on a regular basis to make sure that we're not taking on other people's things. We can do things like cord cutting, where we release lower grade interactions and emotions and beliefs and thoughts from other people. Okay, there's lots of different ways that we can cleanse and clear ourselves. And I promise you, if you get into the habit of doing this, the more you do it, the more frequently you do it, the more thoroughly you do it, the better and better and better and better you feel. So I'm going to encourage you to start getting a bit curious. Get curious about how you might be impacting other people, how you're showing up in your world, but also when you're walking into a room or experience something, even online, it is really important to just become aware, start to observe how you're impacted or impacting the world around you. When you go to work, is there a particular colleague that has a weird energy with you? And is that coming from you or is that coming from them? Right? And if it's coming from them, is that something that belongs to them or is that something that you're doing? So you can actually ask questions, you can get really curious, you can really start to discern what's happening in your world so that you can get clear and free of other people's stuff, number one, but also so you have the best possible chance of being happy, of feeling weightless, of having that sense of, I just feel really amazing regardless of the circumstances. You know, I don't have to buy into the collective consciousness of fear. I don't have to buy into the collective consciousness of anxiety. If everybody around me is talking to me about how bad the mortgage rates are and how hard life is and how difficult it's going to be, but I'm an entrepreneur trying to earn millions of dollars per year, if I take that on, if I bring those comments on and take on that collective consciousness as my own reality, what are my chances of becoming that really successful entrepreneur? Oh, like probably zero, right? Because I'm going to be pushing against these belief systems that I believe are actually mine. If I can learn how to protect my energy, if I can learn how to make sure that my belief systems and my energy field and my sovereignty is separate to other people, I can watch people talking about the mortgage rates and I can go, oh, yeah, wow, they're a bit afraid. All right, cool. I'm about to earn my second million this year, right? How much better is that? Who doesn't want that? It's so important. It's so important. So, food for thought. To pay attention, listen to how you're showing up in your environment, listen to what you're choosing to believe, learn techniques on how to clear your energy, how to clear your aura, how to ground yourself. Get techniques and learn how to discern about what it is in your environment or who it is that you're interacting with that might be impacting your energy and your body and your emotions. And the more discerning you get, the more understanding you get, the better and better and better your life is. Okay, I hope that was super important for you. I hope that was helpful. But this is just an encouragement to know that there are better ways. We don't have to buy into other people's stories. We don't have to buy into other people's fears and doubts and anxieties. We don't need to feel scared because other people feel scared, right? This is where we have choice. We always have choices. And for you, I hope that you choose you. And I hope that you choose your highest possible vibration, your highest possible life timeline. I hope you choose your dreams over impacting or being impacted by people who are going to keep you from everything that you're destined to be. All right. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast. I hope you found it helpful. Please send any comments. Just type some comments in below if you would like to contribute to the conversation. And if you would like to subscribe, please click the subscribe button and also tune in for any further podcasts.